My gosh, what a jam-packed episode. Episode 40 of Apothecary Diaries. Where do we even start? We have the return of the undead Dr. Suirei. She pops up out of nowhere. We have the children of the stolen innocents from the previous emperor. They apparently have been banding together in this clinic, building up their anger. We have, yeah, Shisui. She's still sus as hell. Luomen's over here. He's digging up old memories from people. Ado's back. We have Ado. She's back. My girl Ado's back. Lakan's pissed off. He's going after Shishou. There is so much happening in this episode. So let's just dig through it like we typically do. Start from the very beginning, go through the entire episode, and just kind of analyze it scene by scene. But yeah, opening up the episode, we have the scene with Mao Mao, Luomen, and Gwen. I really like the scene because it's a continuation of how Mao Mao sees her father, or Luomen, her adoptive father, how incredibly talented he is, and how he's able to kind of utilize everything around him. He's kind of like a merchant. So if he can utilize skills of people around him to sort of, yeah, like in this situation, you know, get a lot of these printed out papers and just have everybody kind of write down the same thing, they can make a bunch of flyers and it not cost them anything. It's utilizing what they have around them. These people, they can, you know, test out their skills in writing. He could then use those to post them up elsewhere. But as per usual, she's always pointing out the fact that if he were to use those skills for his own benefit, he would be incredibly powerful. Like, this guy would actually have like a really high position. And it kind of notes at some point in this episode, the guy that's currently in the Institute right now, he's pointing out the fact that, yeah, for somebody like him, he could have been a civil servant, but he's a type that wants to help people. He wanted to help the sick, homeless children. He chose that he wanted to become a physician because there was people that he wanted to help. And yeah, this is something that came up before, where they had this whole situation where somebody got sick way back here in one of the houses. What did Luomen do? He came in there, helped everybody out, and then they wanted to bribe him, but he didn't take the money. He didn't want that money. He just wanted to help people out and get out of there. It's kind of one of those things, again, Mao Mao was always pointing out, why didn't you take the money? Why? You could be so well off if you just took all this money. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want the money. He doesn't want that fame. Something that's completely illogical to somebody like Mao Mao. But yeah, good point that Mao Mao makes here. Kind of nice that we do have Luomen being there right now, and he's technically only employed into the doctor's office currently, not under Gyokyo. That way, he technically could help them with Lihua later on, help with both pregnancies, which, yes, them mentioning that right now does give me a little concern there that, are we flagging that he's not going to be there for that? That something's going to happen to him, that he's going to have to leave after the whole situation with Gyokyo? Hopefully not. Now, here's an interesting thing that Gwen points out, in the idea that there is new maids coming into the Crystal Pavilion. Specifically, this is, of course, Lihua's place. There's new maids coming in there, and that's, of course, to replace the fact that, yes, Lihua just lost her head lady in waiting. Somebody that she grew up with, no longer needed there, got her out of there, but they have new people there. Specifically pointing out, most of the new maids are older. Now, that's an oddity there, because, yes, typically a lot of the maids that are being brought in, they're younger. They're bringing in a lot of young people. But, of course, it does seem like they're sort of trying to raise that level up a little bit. And the idea that this new emperor doesn't seem to like them younger looking, smaller chested. He likes them big. He likes them nice and curvy. So I'm wondering if that's specifically saying that he's pulling in older women because they are more to the taste of the current emperor. I'm not quite sure why it would take him that long in order to kind of bend to what the emperor would currently want. But yes, they are pointing out the fact that this place is for giving birth and raising the children of the current emperor. And that doesn't seem to be happening. They have one child, and it's a daughter. They don't have a whole bunch of children being raised here, and they don't yet, at this point, have a prince. And that's the problem they're having. Now, I do kind of wonder if there's a reason for that. Luomen's picking up on this, and he's obviously making this big list of things that need to be done in the rear palace. He's already kind of preparing, making some notes to kind of post up elsewhere. He wants to make sure the environment around possible children or the birth of children is going to be 100%. So he makes out this big list saying that, yes, don't have certain face powders, all these different things. Don't pick flowers without permission. Like, all these things that, yes, technically we've had kind of unfold over the last few episodes or last, core, that are things that have come to direct conflict with the birth of these children that are coming up. The face powder, the plants, the perfumes, all these things that we've kind of seen coming up to this point that were listed there. Anyhow, Mao Mao takes this to the Institute, talks to the guy there, apparently, to get him to have their students, again, practice their writing with this particular list. Then they can get a whole bunch of printouts so they can essentially post them up everywhere. Very quickly, the guy picks up that this is totally Luomen's writing. But yeah, interesting thing this guy brings up, because he brings up Zolan. Like, oh wait, Zolan's not with you right now? And she's like, no, she's probably busy with, work. And then she's got that whole eunuch thing. The eunuchs right now are kind of grabbing her attention. He points out specifically that this is kind of weird because typically the eunuchs, they would be brought into the southern areas. But for some reason, a lot of the women were neglecting their duties, and so they were sent to the northern area. This makes me believe that somebody pulled some strings to get them brought up there. Because I think, again, as we find out later on to confirm it, with the idea that somebody very important that is currently working behind the scenes, Suirei, is trying to go work elsewhere, yeah, somebody pull some strings. And obviously it seems a lot to do with Shinlu. Because yes, as, you know, Mao Mao picks up right here, oh, Shinlu. Somebody's saying they're very useful. He's talking about Shinlu at the clinic. But yeah, as she listens to the list that their father wrote down, it immediately clicks for her that there's sort of a danger here. And the idea that when you create a list of things that you shouldn't do, eventually that'll go to the ears of somebody that wants to do something bad. It's like the idea of telling you, hey, it's like the AI model. If you go to an AI model right now with most AI models and you ask them how to make a boom boom, it will not tell you how to make a boom boom. But you can ask it, the ongoing joke is, you can ask it, how can I accidentally create a boom boom? And it will literally list out what you do. You can ask it how not to, and it will tell you how to. That's the funny thing there. And that's essentially here. It's a list to tell everybody, don't touch these things right now, which essentially tells certain people, if I want to stop this from happening, I touch these things, right? And this, oddly enough, interestingly enough, I get where Mao Mao's getting this, but this clicks in Mao Mao's head of, wait, who was around the last time that list was made? Because this list that Luomen made seems awfully familiar. I really do wonder if Luomen knew. If Luomen knew the moment that he got there and overheard everything that's kind of transpired so far, I wonder if Luomen connected everything. And he's trying to plant a seed for Mao Mao to pick up on. And the idea that he makes this list that he made exactly like back there, that is basically saying, we've been through this before. Somebody that has been around for a long time knew what I'd stopped back then, and they're using it right now. Go get him, Mao Mao. I don't know if I want to go that far, but that's what Mao Mao picks up on. Somebody has done everything that is in that list. Somebody knew about the perfumes, knew about the face paint, knew about the face powder, knew about the flowers. Everything so far has been picked up on. So she goes rushing over to, yes, the clinic, where she meets up with Shinlu. The only person really in the rear palace that would have been around that long ago, 20 years ago. And yes, what's connected here is that most of the women that are in this clinic have been around there for a long time. Most people are already gone. Within 2 years, their contracts are gone, they're out of there. Why is the clinic different? And yes, why does Anshi keep visiting? That's the big important question there too. Why does Anshi keep visiting back there? It seems like a special place. And they've always kind of pointed out the idea that yes, since doctors can't be back there without it snip snip happening, and yes, the snip snipping has been done away with, they can't really have anybody back there with medical experience. So they've been keeping these women there because they're at least knowledgeable of some sort. But no, the actual truth is here is that what they talked about back there, every one of these children that this emperor has touched has not been allowed to leave. What'd they do? They were kept there. And that's what Mao Mao's connecting. She's starting to connect that there's this big boiling pot back here where all this anger for the empire right now is really kind of building up. These children that were used, their innocence taken away by this previous emperor and just discarded off the side, not allowed to leave. It wasn't just that one. It wasn't just that one lady. It was really just all of them. They were kept back there. And this has been brewing up. But the problem is, like usual, Mao Mao doesn't have any proof, so she can't really say anything. So it kind of comes down to that whole moment of like, can I press her? No, I really shouldn't. I don't really have any proof. I'll just have to leave it there. And goes to leave, and then runs into a little booklet that apparently Shisui has been reading. This little Shisui, that's this sussy little girl that's been running around that Andrew keeps bringing up every 2 seconds that she's probably Loulan. She's been reading these books back here, which, yes, technically does tie her to what is sort of being built up right now with an assumption that Mao Mao has, that everything has been kind of building up from these people in the back. All these things given to at least Shin in order to stop the pregnancy that Lihua has. I don't know. It seems like a bit of a stretch, but I do believe they're all going to be tied together. That these individuals are all tied together with this concept of those that were discarded by the previous emperor. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with the child that was sent from the rear palace and claimed not to be the child of the previous late emperor. But yes, after Mao Mao spots the little insect booklet that Shisui has been reading, immediately acknowledges, oh, that's right. She's been having these little notebooks with paper in it and everything, and she's got all these utensils for drawing. This is not your typical maid. Where is this girl getting all this stuff? Where is this girl from? Again, my prediction has always been that she is Loulan, or at least a twin sister or very closely tied to Loulan. And yes, she's probably of some sort of high noble family, and she's been scouting around for Loulan or as Loulan. And so yes, this is finally Mao Mao kind of connecting that this is not normal for a girl like this to have this stuff. Now you can probably brush it off as she got that from concubines. She's doing all this work for the concubines, get a booklet or whatever. But yes, that's when Suirei shows up. The dead apothecary, the long-running rival of Mao Mao, the one that has the technique that Mao Mao has desperately been seeking for a long time. The medicine to cure death. I love they brought that back up with this, like, run into each other. Now, here's the interesting thing, because the moment that Suirei shows up, she says, don't trust Mao Mao. She's already figured it out. From the moment it's just sitting there and talking to you, she's figured out everything. There was a brief moment where I was kind of wondering if Xinlu might end up being somebody that's sort of being used by them, but not necessarily that she herself has some sort of malicious intent here. But it does seem like, based on the fact that, yes, Suirei's like, yeah, she's figuring out everything based on your saying. It does look like Xinlu is a little bit shocked by there. So it does seem like it's sort of giving everything that Mao Mao has thought about right there sort of a little bit of credit. Like, it might be that whatever Mao Mao believed there, that Xinlu had given that information to that that woman, so that woman could give that information to Xin, so that Xin could end up poisoning Lihua. It seems like a stretch that Xinlu knew that Xin wanted Lihua's child dead, but I mean, she could have talked to him before. But it seems to add up all that stuff together. Because she seemed shocked the moment that she said, Mao Mao's learned everything. Everything you said there, she figured it out. P.S. Suirei shows up, and immediately Mao Mao's like, the voice, too high for a boy, too deep for a woman, short for a man, tall for a woman, is Suirei. Yeah, I honestly wasn't really connecting this new eunuch with Suirei. And again, it totally makes sense. The idea that she could have gotten a little change there, roughed herself up a little bit, changed her appearance a little bit. And yeah, technically, going back to my theory before, with some sort of help with Loulan, she could have got past this whole situation. And yes, they're going to check if she gets checked at the door to see if she's a eunuch. They're not going to find anything down there. It's going to be quite smooth. So once she's passed, as long as she doesn't have to have any tear down disclothing checks, nobody's going to really know who Suirei is if she's a eunuch, formerly a boy or whatever. It just surprised that they went that long without somebody who knew Suirei running into her at some point. But that also does tie in very well with the ongoing theories about how Suirei herself is going to be tied in with Loulan. I went back and checked the episode where we had Suirei do her fake out death, where she did kind of poison herself. They put her in the coffin. They thought that she was dead, and then at some point she swapped with another coffin and got the hell out of there. In that episode, at some point, it did have somebody go to Loulan and notify her what happened with Suirei. So it did seem like she was at some point tied in with her. And again, that does make sense to now, the moment that Suirei shows back up, when she's in that line coming in there to get checked in, somebody notifies Loulan. Loulan has to be somehow tied in with them. But yes, Suirei is still upset about the fact that she was not able to remain a dead body because of her. Mao Mao's trying to figure out if she should run or scream or whatever, and Suirei says that no, I want to sell this peacefully. It does seem like there's some sort of after effects of the medicine, really messed up her arm, which technically makes sense. They were talking about the idea that part of this eunuch's body was kind of messed up, very numb, whatever. It does seem like whatever medicine that she used really messed her up. But yes, Suirei has some demands, has a hostage. Shishui's a hostage. Again, I don't think Shishou is a hostage right there. I'm sorry, Mao Mao. I don't think she's a hostage. I think she's working with her. But yes, using Shisui as a hostage in order to get Mao Mao to leave, says that you're going to leave the palace with me. And yes, I know that you want to because you want that revival medicine. Mao Mao's like, oh gosh, you got me right where you got me at my weak point. She knows that I want that revival medicine. But yeah, that's it. It cuts away from Mao Mao. The next time we see Mao Mao, she's locked up somewhere, and apparently Jinshi's looking for her. But yeah, I think Shishui's tied in with it. I think Suirei wants to get Mao Mao out of the picture because she wants to do something, and Mao Mao is the only one that has actually connected everything together. And again, I don't know why Mao Mao is the only one that's recognizing Suirei's voice and whatnot. I can imagine possibly Lakan at some point might pick up on it, because I think Lakan was directly tied to her at some point, so he could possibly cross paths with her. But I think that would be a little bit too easy for the situation. But we'll see. But yes, that's when we get the scene with Ado. I mean, the younger brother of the emperor. Not Ado. Ado, Lakan, and Shishou. And Lakan wants to have a little bit of tea together with everybody. So yes, Ado agrees to it. They go find a spot to have some tea. And that's where we have Lakan kind of grilling Shishou. And again, back there with the whole assassination attempt with Jinshi, I was pretty convinced that it wasn't going to be Shishou. I felt like that was going to be way too easy, that his involvement was not going to be a thing, that it was going to be more so somebody else sort of hijacking that whole situation for their own benefit. Just because, and I kind of agreed with, I think at the time it was Basen was saying that it would be foolish for him to do that because it draws too much attention to them. If the younger brother of the emperor dies in his presence, it's on him. They're going to look into him specifically. But yeah, Lakan seems to think that this has something to do with Shishou. Bringing up the gun they found, the diagram of it. It's a very advanced weapon from the West. How the heck do these people get this? How did they get it in there? Again, it's not just the fact that it is a weapon from the West, a foreign force. It's also the idea that it was in the hands of somebody that was allowed to be present in these lands, which would make it somebody that's not a foreigner typically. So there's two aspects of it that makes it very suspicious. I think the more interesting thing in here is it hasn't fully 100% said that Lakan was supposed to know about this, because he opens up the conversation by saying there was an attempt on the younger brother's life in your lands, wasn't there? Him asking if it happened sort of makes me feel like he wasn't supposed to know. But then he also has the design for it, which kind of throws some people off as well. It seems like a lot of the things that he's bringing up is kind of a shock to them, which technically makes sense because I think back here, Jinshi implied that they were going to keep it hush-hush. Yes, technically Khan did eventually have in his hands, his presence, the people that were involved, the culprits, because he has been interrogating them. I have to say, at some point he mentions the idea that unfortunately the captured are not able to speak now. A little bit too rough on them. And I think it was Basan right there. Basan's like, if they were to torture them that badly and botch the torture, that would be very costly. I'm thinking to myself, no, I think what Khan's doing right here is he's telling Shishou, we messed him up pretty bad. And we want to know more. It's a threat. It's almost like he's giving a threat to Shishou that we're tearing these people up. Even what Basan's saying right there, there's no mercy to those that plot against the royals. It's literally Lakan saying, we jacked him up so bad, they can't even talk. Bummer. But we need some more information. What do you think, Shishou? What do you think? You got anything that, you know anything? You got any information for us? I feel like, again, I think like Lakan right here, he's mad. Again, as I kind of mentioned later on, there's two things that you don't mess with Lakan. You don't mess with his wife, and you don't mess with his daughter. And his daughter is currently in trouble. And he probably thinks there's some sort of connection between the assassination attempt and what's going on with Mao Mao. My assumption there. But yes, the other very interesting thing that happens in the scene is that, yeah, he brings up his wife, which I thought was my heart, dude. That kind of got my heart a little bit there. The fact that on to the main discussion. Look at this diagram of my game that I play with my wife. She's so sharp. She just loves it. Again, I can totally see this being the idea that, yes, it could be partially the idea that Lakan is trying to play up his wife. He loves her so much. He used to love playing that game with her. And unfortunately, her mental state has gone downhill. But I can see this being something that even though she is in the mental state that she is, she could still be very good at that game. Because those areas of her brain are not damaged. And so she can play a really good game. This is the thing that she keeps messing with when she was way back at the house. She was messing with the rocks. I can totally see her being still very crafty at that stuff. And he loved to play that game with her. So this is something that he probably just absolutely adores. So yeah, I can totally see him geeking out about this. But additionally, as Shishou goes to leave, he brings up one more thing. I have these jars of grape juice. Would you like some? It's got a beautiful red color, and it's green. And Shishou doesn't point it out. Which, yes, anybody that vaguely remembers the whole trial thing, this is a thing about certain people of the West, and certain people within the bloodline of the goddess. And that a lot of royalty for this bloodline had to go through that trial specifically for that. It had to do with colorblindness. And now they're bringing it up again with Shishou, kind of implying that Shishou is somehow connected with the royal bloodline. Very interesting. Or either the royal bloodline or the group that was trying to intervene into the bloodline. It's twofold there. There was a lot of emphasis on when Wang Mu first came in, the Queen Wang Mu first came in, The idea there was that she was trying to infiltrate the entire empire by becoming a part of the bloodline and forcing her own bloodline to always be in the royal bloodline. It could be that he is of that, or the original group that was trying to infiltrate her in. And that could be somehow tied in with Shishou. How that's tied in with Shishou, what I can imagine is that, yes, if he's involved with the assassination attempt on Jinshi, he could see that Jinshi is not worthy of it. And he might want to get that original bloodline of Wang Mu back into the royalty. Because all signs point to when Jinshi was in that trial, he never pointed out that he could see it. And yes, the emperor, the current emperor, never showed that he was able to see it. This could be an attempt by Shishou and the party that he is backed by, or that's backing him. This could be an attempt for them to try to get that bloodline back in there. And again, it could be tied in specifically with the daughter that was kicked out of that rear palace and claimed to not be a child of the late emperor. That's where I think they're going with all that stuff, all being kind of tied in together. But yes, Shisui being tied in with that, that can be all tied in with Loulan as well. Loulan could be tied in with that bloodline as well. I'd be kind of curious to go back to see if there was any sign that Loulan could see a certain color that nobody else could. Just a brief moment where suddenly she says something is red when it's supposed to be green or something like that. Very, very cool stuff. But yes, after he doesn't say that it's green and he goes to leave, Lakan says, "Just as my uncle said." Which, if I remember correctly, his uncle is supposed to be Luomen. Because I think Luomen was the one from his backstory, and the idea that it was someone that was always, you know, training him. That's why Mao Mao hated Lakan, is because Lakan always got all the attention from Luomen. Luomen always praised him, and he never took that for granted. She always hated that. But yes, the next scene, we see that Jinshi goes back and takes off the cover and the mask and everything, and it's Ado. Ado the entire time. Apparently, she is now a stand-in for the crown prince. Which she apparently is taking as, you know, an important job, something that she does want to do. But yes, points out the cunning that is Lakan that makes Shishou look normal. He has a soft spot for his wife and daughter too. Again, that's why I think they're really emphasizing there that Lakan's ticked off, that Mao Mao is off somewhere. It does seem like currently, this does seem like a jump forward from the moment that we last seen Mao Mao. Because it does seem like currently in that room, they're mentioning that the eunuch, Jinshi, is out looking for that girl, scrambling to deal with the situation for that girl. And it seems like all signs are pointing to Jinshi's currently out and about trying to find her. And so they had to have somebody be a stand-in for right now, and that's Ado. So Ado's having to basically make all the public appearances while he's working in the shadows. What I'm assuming from the next episodes, we're probably getting into whatever group currently has Mao Mao, which again, I think is, it's everybody involved with Loulan, Shisui, Suirei, which is going to be probably something of that Western bloodline. The Western bloodline that is tied in with Queen Wang Mu. And again, I think that's a lot to do with whatever daughter was born from the late prince that was discarded. All that stuff is going to tie in together. It's all going to tie in together with essentially all these poor children that were used and abused and discarded by the previous emperor. And I think that's all coming to a head right now. And I think a lot of the strength of what's driving them isn't just he was a nasty person, because that's his legacy. That's back there. I think it's going to be tied in with that bloodline. I think that's going to be their core value, is a desire for them to have strength within the empire itself. Pull. Anyways, that's, again, really, really juicy episode. Hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts on this episode. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much. I think I covered pretty much everything. Yeah, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button down below, comment, let me know what's the episode. Again, if you are a source material fan, please don't leave any spoilers down there. All speculation, just speculation. I don't answer to any of it. But yes, if you like this content and want to support channel more, I have links in the script below. Greatly appreciate it. But until next time, y'all take care.